Okay, good luck to all of Freilich and Hanukkah, and we're up to Yud Amid Beis, the bottom line, and we've discussed Kiddush HaChodesh or Ibra HaChodesh, and today we're going to discuss Ibra Hashana, going ahead and making a leap year, going ahead and making a leap year. Every year, there's a 354, roughly, solar, lunar, and 365 solar. So every year, basically, you're losing 11. It's a little more. It's a little more than that, but basically every year you're losing 11 days. So we keep the lunar calendar, but we live in the solar year. In other words, we keep the solar year. We just date our days based upon a lunar calendar. So you're always going to have 11 days. As a result, if you don't go ahead and be ma'aber, go ahead and make a leap year, eventually you're going to move. That's every 3 years, 33 days. So progressively you're going to have, let's say, Pesach will be moving up the ladder. So there's a need to go ahead and make a nibiyah. Just for argument's sake, you should realize you need 7 in 19 years. In 19 years, you need 7 leap years. It's not every 2 years, like people think every 2 years. It's not. It's if you times those 11 days, the difference, if times 19, it's 209. But because of the pitch of the difference, it's another day. So it's 210. So you take a month, 30 days of a month, and you divide it into 210, you get 7. 7 times 30 is 210. So every 19 years, you need to go ahead and get 7 leap years. So the discussion is over here is what the halachas of a leap year. Basically, the halachas of a leap year. We in this mission discuss how many 3, 5, 7. We have this machlokes, and here it is. Tanrabanan. Ema avirin es hashana, ella b'mizumanin. You have to be invited. Ella b'mizumanin la. Rashi says at the top, shezminun hanasi mibe'erev. You have to be invited from the day before. Teres Chaim says beautifully, if you're invited the day before, you'll have time to think about it, whether to make an ibiyah or not. It'll give you time to go ahead and think. But if you're called into court and as a dayan without time to think, you won't do the best job. So therefore, the reason for the hazmana, the reason for the preparation, is the advance notice, is to give you says the Torah Chaim, a chance to prepare. Maisa b'Rabbi Gamliel, there's the Maisa Rabbi Gamliel who was the Nasi, right? Sha'amar hishkimi li shiva la'aliyah. Go ahead and bring the next day. Bring 7 people up to the aliyah. Hishkimu matzah shmaina, got up in the morning and he found 8. Amar mihu sha'ala shalei b'rshus. Who's the 8th guy who doesn't belong here? You're right. He should go down. Amit Shmuel HaKatan, said Shmuel HaKatan, he was anything but a cotton. That's the last Hanukkah that doesn't apply. Shmuel HaKatan, we met Shmuel HaKatan in Brachas. He was one davening for the Amid. And V'amar, Anihu Shalisi Shalei B'Rshus, I'm the one. I didn't go over to be part of the Bezdin that's going to go ahead and be B'Mamad Shana. Lilmoid Halacha L'Maisa Hitzrachti. I wanted to learn, the nuts and bolts. I wanted to learn how exactly it's done. So Amalai, so Rabbi Gamliel told him, Shev b'ni Shev, stay here. Ru'yus kol hashanim kulon l'sabra al yadcha. It's really that what every year should be what misaber, the years that need misaber, a person of your distinction is right to go ahead. Only people who were invited and you weren't invited. But it wasn't true. Shmuel HaKatan really was invited. It was another person who was invited, and Shmuel HaKatan didn't want him to go ahead and be embarrassed by having to leave. That's why he went ahead, and Shmuel HaKatan stood in. He went in, and he took the guy's place. You hear this? He went in and took the guy's place to go ahead and save him the embarrassments. Right? The Sefer Hasidim in Tuf Reish Chof Beis, I think it is. I looked it up today. He said, you see from here, you're able to lie, to save someone, because Shmuel HaKatan's lying. He said whoever wasn't invited should leave, but he was invited, right? So you see, you can even lie to go ahead and save face for a person. Kihadi Yosef Rebbe v'Kodorish, like the following case. Rebbe was darshaning, v'heriach reach shum, and he smelled garlic. He smelled garlic. Omar, Misha achel shum yatsa. Whoever ate garlic should leave. Man after my own heart. Go ahead, leave. Omar Rebbe Chia stood up. V'yatsa, and he left. Amdu kulan v'yatsa. Everyone got up and left. B'shacha, the next day, Matzah Rebbe Shimon Berebbe. Rebbe Shimon, the son of Rebbe, found Rebbe Chia. Amalei, he said to Rebbe Chia, Atahu shetziarto la'aba, you were mitzvah my father by eating garlic and coming in and smelling up the place. Amalei said Rebbe Shimon, Rebbe Chia to Rebbe Shimon, "Lo take his ice Yisrael. I never did such a thing. I didn't do it. I just left because I didn't want him to go ahead and be embarrassed." Rebbe Chia mehechin gamol. Where did Rebbe Chia learn from what? Not to that you should not embarrass somebody even though you're not the guilty party. He learned it from Rebbe Meir, the Tanya. Ma'isa be'isha achas. There was a ma'isa with a certain woman. She basol beis medrash, came to the beis medrash. Shel Rebbe Meir. Amruloi, she said to him, Rebbe, echad mikem Kitshani Bibia. One of you Mekadesh, one of the people in this measure was Mekadesh Bibia. A bizarre case. So Ahmad Rebbe Meir, because of Laget Krisis, Rebbe Meir stood up, gave her get Krisis, V'nasamla, and he gave it to her. Amdu, right? Amdu, they stood up, Kasfu Kulam, all of them wrote it, V'nasnula, and they gave it to her. Okay, big lumdus over here, guys. Outside for a minute, big lumdus over here. Like it's a Dor Sameach. In Hilchos Gerushin, he says that in a case where the Eidim don't know who they're getting divorced with the get, it's not a good get. The only way it'd be a good get is if the owner himself, the Baal himself, wrote the get. And so Meduyik in the Gemara, Amad Kulam, because they all stood up and they followed Rebbe Meir's lead, that they went ahead and wrote the get themselves. If they would have given it to a cipher, it wouldn't be a good get. So it's Meduyik, the Sameach is Meduyik that over here, the fact that they themselves wrote it, that's why it was a good get. Because they don't know who's divorcing. Again, he wanted to go ahead and save face. Rabbi wanted to go ahead and save face. The person of Taka did that. So what he learned from Shmuel HaKatan, that who we just saw above, went ahead who was invited, and may believe he wasn't. Shmuel HaKatan mehechin gamala. Mishechanya ben Yechiel. He learned it from Shechanya ben Yechiel. Now, who's Shechanya ben Yechiel? So it's in Ezra. Ezra's giving Musa to Klal Yisrael for intermarrying and not keeping Shabbos. Vayan Shechanya ben Yechiel mibnei Elam. Vayomer Ezra. Anachnu ma'alnu be'Elokeinu. We were moil in Hashem. You know, he's including himself in it, even though he wasn't part of it. The noish of noshin nachriyasim, and we're me'amei oretz. V'ata yesh mikvah Yisrael. Alzois. Now, so you see, Shechanya included himself as one of the sinners, even though he wasn't. Now, this is not Yeshua per se, but it's a Maisa with Yeshua. This is after they lost the battle against Ai. What happened was they sent 3,000 men to Ai. Achan had taken from the Chayrim of Yerichai, which he was not supposed to. As a result, they lost the battle. Yeshua goes ahead and he falls down in prayer. Because Baruch says, "Come, get up." Chata Yisrael, right? Chata Yisrael, right? And Yisrael did a chait. Now, what should Hakadosh Baruch Hu told him? Achan did a chait. Hakadosh Baruch Hu should have spilled the beans who exactly was guilty, but he didn't say that. Panishlam said chata. So I'm going to find Rabbi Shalom michata. So Yeshua asked the Rabbi Shalom, guys, who was a chata? I'm Aloi. Said Hakadosh Baruch Hu. I love this. The Dal Torah ani? Am I a peddler? Am I a guy who says rechilas? HaKadosh Baruch Hu is not giving him over. Yeah? Like, he says to Yeshua, you find out yourself. I'm not going to tell you. So you see the cover up. You see it's a Renish line. That's a Shmuel HaKatan. You cover up things. It's fantastic Gemara. Dal Torah nilach. Hittel Garvailos. Go ahead and be matal Garvais. So he put a Garvai and they went past the Aron and Achan got stuck by the Aron. You are saying another that Shmuel HaKatan learned from Moshe. The Chsiv and Ona me antem. It says by the Mon when they went out in Shabbos that Dasan Vaviram and Hashem didn't accuse of Dasan Vaviram. Right? He said to Moshe, until how long will you? You know, he accused. He didn't. Hakadosh Baruch Hu did not give it over. Right? He didn't say Dasan Vaviram. So again, it's not that from Moshe per se or Yeshua per se, but the incident from Hakadosh Baruch Hu that occurred that taught Shmuel HaKatan not. You cover it up. Tarambana. Mishemeisin Neviim Achrayim Chagas Echayim Malachi. The Stalka Ruach Hakodesh Yisrael. Ruach Hakodesh left Yisrael. Pikain, they would go ahead and use the baskol. Look at the top places. Why it's called a baskol. I always wonder why it's called a baskol. They didn't hear the call directly. From that call came out another call, like an echo, guys, like an echo. And you hit something and you hear the secondary call. They hear that call, say bas call, because it's not the original call. It's why it's why it's not a ben call, I'm not exactly sure, but it's called a bas call for that reason. Interesting places to know that's why it's called a bas call, because you're not hearing the direct call. Back in the Gemara, so there was so even though what Ruach HaKodesh was bottled, they were mishtamish with bas call. Hamachas hayim mesumim ba'aliyas beis Guria b'Yericho. They were sitting in the aliyah of beis Guria in Yericho. The nasna aleim bas kol min hashamayim, and bas kol came out. Yesh kan echad over here. There's an individual shiroi shetishul of shechina. Some people have Moshe Rabbeinu, some people take it out. There's a person here who's roi that the shechina should be on him like Moshe Rabbeinu. El shein dor is zaka lekach. The dor is not worthy for that. Nasnu chachamim eseneim behillel hazaken. Everyone turned to Hillel hazaken that he was the one. Ukshemeisim, when Hillel hazaken died, Amru Olav, they said, Hay Chassid, Hay Onav. They call him the Chassid, the pious one, and the Onav. Talmidah Shel Ezra, the Talmud of Ezra. Shuv Machas Hayu Mesubim Balias Biyavne, V'Nasna Aleim Bas Kol Min Hashamayim. Yesh Kan Echad Sheroy Shetishul Shechina El Shein Dar is a Kolakach. Now over here it doesn't say the K'may Rabbeinu. Nasna Chacham Meseineim B'Shmuel HaKatan. Again, this is why we brought this Gemara in, guys, because of Shmuel HaKatan. Ukeshemeis Amru Olav Hay Chassid, Hay Onav, Talmidah Shel Hillel. Afhu Amar B'Shas Misasai. Right, he said at the time of his death, Shimon v'Yishmael lecharva. So Shmuel HaKatan said Shimon. That is Reb Shimon ben Gamliel, according to Rashi. Yishmael kohen gadol lecharva. They're going to die by the sword. Again, this is the Asari Rugi Malchus. The Chavuroyhe, that's the Chaverim, Rabbi Akiva and such. The Katala, they'll be killed. The Shar Amal leBiza, and the rest of the what of the nation will be mivatev. They'll be embarrassed, literally. The Okon Sagiyin Asidim Lemese Al Alma, and terrible tragedies are going to come upon what Klal Yisrael. So Shmuel HaKatan is forbearing terrible news. Val Yehuda ben Bava Bikshu Leima Kain. They wanted to say on Yehuda ben Bava Hay Chassid Hay Onav Talmidah Shel El Shenitra Shah. The time did not allow Shema Spidim Al Rugi Malchus. They didn't allow. Yehuda ben Bava was killed also when I was Rugi Malchus, but Rashi brings they didn't allow that. They didn't like Hespedim because of the fear of what's going to happen to them. Tanabanan, back to our regularly scheduled program discussing Ibah Shana. Tanabanan. Ema Virin Es Hashana Ela Imkein Yitzin Nasi. As we said above in the top line, Rabbi Gamliel called them to the attic. Guys, Rabbi Gamliel was the Nasi. So the only one who could go ahead pashtus is the Nasi. Umaysa Rabbi Gamliel Shalach Litel Rishus Eitzel Gamliel. Okay, Umaysa, there was a Maisa. Rabbi Gamliel Shalach Litel Rishus Eitzel Sultan Echad. He's going to bring to a certain sultan. He had Echad B'Shebes Surya. He had to deal with something that was going on in Surya. B'Shalav, he was delayed in coming. V'Ibru Es Hashana Al Menashe Yirtza Rabbi Gamliel, and the people they were obviously it was called for Ibiyar, and they were scared. Again, once you enter Nisan, you can't go ahead and make an Ibiyar. You have to get it before you get to Nisan. So I guess the time was of the essence, and they made it tonight that if we'll make it an Ibiyar now, and it's based on it tonight that Rabbi Gamliel will agree. And what happened? So you see that why it has to be. You can make it conditionally, but he has to agree. Right? The drachim, because again the drachim, let's say they're muddy. You want the oil of the regal to be oil of the regal, and if it's too muddy, so they would delay make Pesach later. Or if they had gesharim, if the bridges are down, or if they tanuri pesachim, and if the tanuri pesachim that they had a broil the carbon Pesach in were wet, they would delay. Again, very important, guys, because we're gonna discuss this on the Yomi base. It says the reason you only ma'aver the shana if what? If the roads are muddy, then you could be ma'aver. A ma'aver and ella only these three things. You buy the three things. that the roads are muddy, the bridges are down, or the ovens cannot cook the Korban Pesach because they're too moist. Yisrael, or people who left Chutz La'aretz, Shenekruim Konmai, Vadayin Le'Yagiyah. They left, but they didn't make it to Eretz Yisrael yet. We'll go ahead and delay the Yontif in order to go ahead and they should be able to come to the Beis HaMikdash. If it's snowing, you would not be Ma'abed Shana. If they had sinner, if it's too cold, you won't be Ma'abed Shana. The ones that did not go ahead and start out on their trip, we would not go ahead and delay. Let's say for the Korban Pesach, you have Dakistika Tzigin and Dakistika Lemelach. Kenny's not here, so we have to ask Ari. That Benji's driving, so we can't focus on him. So if you have Dakistika Lemelach, that means there's no lamb chops, it's Shvachim Isis. And the Tzigin, the goats, it doesn't work. So you might think Korban Pesach, I want a Zaftig Tzig, I want a Zaftig goat, sheep, right? And guess what? And you don't do it. It doesn't make a difference. Don't eat so much. And Korban Pesach, you eat all the slave anyway. Let's say for the Zavim, the Zavais, the Aledas, they needed for their Chosek Kippurim, they needed the oil and the Chatas. So if they're Shvach, it doesn't make a difference. Yinam Arba. You eat Shvach birds. You would go ahead and make it a secondary reason. Let's see Rashi. Sayog with Samech L'Devrayim La'avar Es Hashana. If you want to use these as a means to addition for a reason, and you're going to add this to the reason, then it's helpful. So for example, we're going to see on the Omid base, fellas, that there are other reasons we do it. If you go ahead and in addition to those other reasons, you're going to go ahead and add dakistika birds or dakistika animals, sheep and goats, that is helpful. Good. So zichalei not, but add it too, yes. Ketzad, Rabbi Yana Mishum Shimon ben Gamliel. How would you go ahead and what's Ketzad? What? Mehoidin anachna lechain, and we're informing you the goyz laya rechichin the imroya the arkin. We're informing you that the animals they're soft, and the zimnin the aviva leimatya, and the grain hasn't ripened yet. So usually when the grape isn't ripened yet, that's one of the reasons for the what? For the making it ibiyar. And what are you adding to that, guys? The animals on adakistic. So this is Ketzad, how you use it as an ancillary reason. The main reason is that the grain hasn't ripened, as we'll see on the Amid base. In addition, but the animals are shvach also, so give them a chance to fatten up. So we'll use it as an ancillary reason to go ahead and be ma'abed shana. Ushafaras milsa ba'anpoi, and the matter is proper in front of me. What? But you're Yud Aleph Amid base, 2 lines from the bottom. Ushafiras milsa ba'anpoi, and the matter is proper in front of me. For Isifus al Shasadat till Sinyamim, I'm getting 30 days. So this is an example of using this reason to go ahead and use it as a secondary reason to make an Ibashana. Okay, you're all from the base at the bottom. So you think Stamasay when you add a month, you're adding 30 days. Mesivay, Kama Ibashana, Shleshim 30 days. Which is 29 days. So which is it, 29 or 30? If you want 29, 29, you want 30, 30, whatever, it's up to you. Pachazi, my Ikka, let's see now. Guys, let's focus on. This was Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel wrote that it's V'shafra milsa ba'anpoi, the matter in front of me. He said again, it's proper in front of me. Now the Gemara says, Teichazi my Ikka on the days, ma bein tekifo kadmoni, kadmoi, le'invisinase basroi. Let's see the difference between the kifis, the strength of the earlier ones, and we're going to see in a second, and the anivus of the latter ones. Meaning, the latter one, in this case, Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel, he went ahead and said, in front of me, it makes sense. But he's the latter generation. The previous generation, Rabbi Gamliel, he's included his friends. The Tanya, Ma'aser Rabbi Gamliel Shehaya Yoshev al Gav Ma'ila B'Har Habayis. He was sitting on what? On the step of the Har Habayis. V'Haya Yochanan Sefer Halos Lami Lefanov. He had a sefer in front of him. U'Sholish Yigaros Chetuchas Lefanov. He had gone ahead and he had 3 letters written. Menechas Amalai Tul Igrasecha. To take one. The Kosev Lachana B'nei Galilah. Right to our brothers B'nei Galilah Ilah, the Upper Galilee. Ulachna, our brothers B'nei Galilah Tata, the Lower Galilee. Shalomchem Yaske, there should be increased what? Increased shalom to you. Mahoidin anachnanu lechoin. This man biura mata. It meets the man's beer that you have to get rid of the maisa and truma that you have in your house. La'aflushe maisa, and I say truma, the maisa. Aflushe masra mimatona dezesa. So in the Galilee, they had a lot of wine, a lot of olives. In the north of Eretz Yisrael, they had a lot of olives. So he's telling them, listen, he's writing them a letter, that's the man's beer, and now any maisa of olives that you have, please get rid of it. Please take care. That was to them. Now, the second letter, B'tuli Grasa Chada, the Kosev Lachmona B'nei Deroimai. So you are the B'nei South. Shalomcha Yaske, you should go ahead and increase your shalom. M'hoidin Nachnana L'chain, this man bi'ura mata, Laflushe Maisra Maimure Shibole. You should go ahead and take away from your grain. It's reached this amount of taking from your grain. Of course, in the south of Eretz Yisrael, as opposed to the north, they were known for their grain rather than their olives. V'tuli grasachada and one because of lachana b'nei galvasa to our brothers in the Gullus, the Bavel, ulachno the Madai and our brothers in Madai, ulishar kol galvasa the Yisrael in the diaspora, shalom chen yaske, shalom should increase, la'olam me hadona anachnu lechoin the gozloi rachichin ve'imra arkin. That the birds are what? Soft and the sheep are what? Are shvach, right? The zmana da aviva loy mata, and the zman of the ovid has not reached yet, and therefore the shapir milsa ba'anpoi, and the matter is proper in front of me, and here's the key, uba'anpoi chaviroi, and in front of what? My chaverim, voisifis al shasa da yumatilsin. So look at the difference. The latter generation said is proper in front of me, whereas Gamliel, the previous generation, the Takaf, he said in front of me and in front of my chaverim, right? So he added those words in front of my chaverim. So the Gemara concludes you have no raya. Just for a second, remember Rabbi Gamliel is the one who was Mavayish Rabbi Yochanan, Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya by making him stand, right? Tfilas Avish Rishus, they took him down from the Siyas, and they restored Rabbi, and they took him back, but he was in partnerships with Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. You have to remember this Gemara, guys. That's the most famous, one of the most famous Gemaras in Shas. If you don't remember it, okay, it's Chav Ches in Brachas Chaza. Okay, so therefore you have over here. So now, and for the Gemara, Tilma Basa de Avruhu, says Rashi, Basa de Avruha, says Rashi, Le Rabbi Gamliel Minasiu. So they took him down. And Nasa Onav, and then as a result, he became an Onav. In other words, you want to bring a riot, a carte blanche riot across the board, the difference between previous generations and the later generations, maybe there's no difference. Maybe he was a takif, but maybe he learned a little bolak, as my father used to say. He taught him a little anivas, and Mela, that's the way Rashi learns. Look at Taisus, guys. Taisus, the third Taisus down. Basad Avruhu, Pirish, V'hoyoloi Chaver. And now he had a cohort. He had a co-nasi. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, Shayi Nasi Imay, L'Kachomer Ba'anpei Chavrai. In other words, he couldn't write in just himself because, again, why do we see on the Yom Aleph, guys? Who's Ma'abed Shana? The Nasi. But he's not the lone Nasi anymore, Taisa says, right? He's not the lone Nasi anymore. He's got a partner. So Mamela, that's why he had to write it. Either way, you have no raya. When Gemara says you have no raya, either, of course, he learned a little humility, but according to Taisus, no, according to Taisus, man, he wasn't the lone what? He wasn't the lone Nasi anymore, and therefore he had to include him. Okay, nice Kishmach Gemara for Mitzvah Shabbos, huh? Okay, now, Tan Rabbanan. I'm going to focus on this a lot, guys. Al Shleisha Devarim Ma'arvin Es Hashana. 3 things you ma'aba the Shana. Ala Aviv. You need it should be, if the tfuah wasn't ripe yet, it says b'chodesh Aviv. It says that that Pesach should be in the chodesh Aviv. So it should be rach carmel. It should be soft and ripe. So if you see that the grain is not ripe, then you ma'abadi, go ahead and give it an extra month to ripen. That's one reason. Second reason, Rashi brings by Atzeres, you want to be able to bring the Bikurim. So they're born from the 7 fruits of Eretz Yisrael. And you see that that it's early. So what are you going to do? So the first reason seems to be for Pesach. The second reason is for the Atzeres, that what you should have Bikurim to bring up. Okay. Finally, Bi'alat Kufa. And on the Tkufa, good. What's the Tkufa? So as I mentioned in the Hakdama, we have to take into account the solar year. We do. We have 4 Tkufas. There are 365 days and a quarter of a day in a solar year. And we divide that up into 4, 91 days and 7.5 hours. 91 days, 7 hours. And I guess the best way to describe it is the Tkufa of Tishrei, the Tkufa of Teves, the Tkufa of Nisan, and the Tkufa of Tammuz. Tishrei and Nisan are the equinox. That's your fall and your spring. Teves and Tammuz are your winter solstice, and Tammuz would be your summer. Good? So now, we need that Pesach should be in the Tekufa of Nisan. What happens? You see it's in the Tekufa of Teves. Therefore, for Tekufa, you can go ahead, even if you should go ahead and move it down, okay? So those are the 3 reasons. The Aviv, the fruits for Atzeres, and the Tekufa, the Kufa that Pesach should fall out in. And also, I think, and the Chag also Sukkot has to be in the Tekufa of Tishrei. Okay, so these are reasons for that. Now, notice, fellas. Okay, let's finish up. Al shnai mehen ma'avrin, velech mehen ein ma'avrin. If you have 2 of these, then you make it an iber. 1 of them you don't. So you need 2 versus 1. Ubizman she'aviv echa mehem, and when aviv is one of them, hakol smechim, that everyone is happy. You know why? Because they don't have what to. That you can't eat the chadash anyway. That you can't eat the chadash anyway because it's not ripe. If it's not ripe, so therefore they're happy. If you look at Rashi, Bisman she'aviv echad, go down a little bit. Min hashnayim shemisaveres shana aleihem. Hakol smechim shein choshishim b'tchias haPesach lefi shein atfur ruya vein isa chodash nerach aleihem. In other words, why would you be unhappy if Pesach is delayed? Is because you can't eat the chodash, the winter grain, because why? Because the oim hasn't been brought, but it's not ripe anyway. So therefore, they're happy. You can delay it anyways. They don't lose. They don't lose anything. But when the aviv is ready to be cut and everything, and then you're missing that reason, and you're going to have to delay the chadash, then they're unhappy. Let's say for the Kuf in Paris. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel says, Al Tkufa iboilahu, Al Tkufa. He just says that Tkufa is one of them. Iboilahu, Al Tkufa smechem, they're happy. Al Tkufa ma'arvin, but the Kufa you'll be ma'arvin. The Gemara says Teku, we don't know. Okay, so I had a kasha, guys. We went to the Amid Aleph. What did it say in the Amid Aleph? It says, only ma'aba, shana, only if what? Your ma'aba shana ne drachim, because of what? The drachim. With ne gesharim, and with ne tanuri pasacha, ne golas, right? L'chayra, you're telling me aviv peris tkufa, right? And now you're saying, no, the only reason you do it is because of what? It's because of the roads are muddy and the bridges aren't ready. And so, how do you reconcile the 2? So look at the Tosfos on Yud Aleph Amid Aleph. Okay. It's the Tosfos before that. Tosfos before. Why don't we consider the 3 from the Amid Beis? That's the one we did, Aviv, Tkufa, and Paris. Mishum da al shnayim mehem avin. You needed 2. Aval hani, these reasons, afilu echad mehem avin. Even what? 1 of them. So if the roads are muddy, that's enough of a reason. If the bridges are down, that's enough of a reason. If the people coming from Gullus had left their houses, that's a reason. The other one, as we just saw, the Aviv, the Tkuf, and the Paris is only what? 2. You need 2 out of 3. These you only need 1. Therefore, you need to consider them together. Okay? Therefore, you need to consider them together. That's what Tosfos says. Ubraisa de samech gabe gediyim v'tloim v'goyis le'shlei parchu nami lechoshev lehu mishum Even two of those, you're not going to go ahead. They have to be ancillary to Aviv. They have to be ancillary to Tkufa. They have to be ancillary to those things. So the shvachadika goats and shvachadika birds, that can be a help for the three reasons we just mentioned on the Yom base. But two of them not. You have shvach birds and shvach not. But these three, the bridges and the tunnels and the not tunnels and the roads and the people leaving, that alone would do. Okay, that's a beautiful, beautiful Toras Chaim, guys. I think it's geschmack as anything. Says Toras Chaim. Because of the bridges. Because of what Taisvis, Aviv, Tkuf, and the Paris. You needed two. Aval Hani, the ones that mentioned on the Yom Aleph, the bridges and such, Afilu Echad. V'oid Nera, says the Toras Chaim, the Ein Inyan Elu Elu. It's not comparable. The Lekamon Choshev Eisan, Shloisha Devarim, Shema Avin Aleim Midaraisa. The Amid Beis, those three reasons, the Aviv, Tkuf, these are all Deraisa. Aviv, Dichsiv, Shomer Esachaydish Aviv. There's a mitzvah to what? That makes sure that the Aviv, that the fruit is ripened in Nisan. Paris, so Ilan, Dichsiv, V'chad HaKotzir, Bikurei Ma'asecha. So you have to have Bikurim. Tkufa, Dichsiv, V'chag HaOsif, this is by Sukkis, Tkufas Hashana. So therefore, on the Amid Beis, they're all deraisa. The bridges, the roads, the people in Galus coming, these are all derabanan while being mavar. They're not deraisa. Le'esat sarich, for the time of need. La'oili regalim, for the people who are being oil regel. Okay, so that's his chilik. The Amid Beis is deraisa, is derabanan. And listen to his diak. Ulahachi nakat, and therefore we learn, guys, the lashon. Ein ma'avrin es hashana elim kain ha'isat tzricha. You learn the lashon ein ma'avrin. We do not go ahead and intercalculate, whatever that means. Lo nokat nami al arba devarim ma'avirin al adrachim. Ki the nokat lekamon al shloisha devarim ma'avrin. We don't say ein ma'avrin. We say dafka al shloisha devarim ma'avrin, because that's lichat chila, and that's always going to be because it's the raisa. But the reason ein ma'avrin is only if the need arises. Only if they can't go ahead and make it. That's the difference between the two. Later on, that's the main reason. But over here, the ones are the bridges and the roads and so forth, which only the Rabbanon, la'avra aleim le'es hatzarech, l'kach nokat ein ma'avrin es hashana, pirish le'es ha-tzarech. Okay, that's so Taisus gave a reason that there's 2 verses 1, says if kasher is why you can't learn them together, says the Toras Chaim, I'll tell you a partial reason you can't learn them together. They're the Raisa and they're the Rabbanon, right? If the fruit is not ripe and the Kufa 2 out of 3, forget about it. Ema Arvin, that's from time to time. It's not going to happen. Let's say the roads in Eretz Yisrael were always good. Let's say the bridges were always good. But the infrastructure was always good. Then they'll never show up as a reason to go ahead and make a leap year. Masha'en came, those we know, Aviv and Tkuf and Paris, show up at least 7 times out of 19 years, right? They show up 7 times. Beautiful. And the Lashon, his diak, guys, look at his diak. The Amen Aleph is Ein Ma'arvin. And the lashon on the Amid Beis is al shloisha devarim me'avrin. It's the positive ma'avrin. Very beautiful difference between the two. Guys, got it? Okay, Baruch Hashem. Tan Rabbanan. Al shloisha artzos ma'avrin es hashana. Shloisha artzos, says Rashi, it's 2 lines down where it gets wide. Al shloisha artzos shloi higia aviv shalehen. Let's say it's unripe. The second reason, Elon. In other words, when we say that the pears have to be ripe and the grain has to be ripe, where are we discussing? So we're discussing three lands, three all in Eretz Yisrael, three parts of Eretz Yisrael. Al shloisha artzis. Artzis mean, Rashi points out, don't be misled that what, these are different lands. These are all Eretz Yisrael. These are all Eretz Yisrael. Al shloisha artzis ma'avin es hashana. Yehuda, one. Aver HaYarden, what we call Transjordan. V'Hagalu, and the north of Eretz Yisrael. Al shtayim mehem avrin, if in two of them the fruit is not ripe or the grain is not ripe. But if only one, then not. Yehuda achas mehen, and when Yehuda is one of them, hakol smechen. You know why? She'ein oime bo elami Yehuda. The oima can be brought from other places, but it's best brought from Yehuda. So therefore, if Yehuda is one of the places that we're going to delay, they're very happy. Why? Because it means that the oima is going to be brought from the best place. Tarabanan, ema avnes hashanim ela Yehuda. Vim ivra begalil muberes. Heid Chananya ish oine im ibruha begalil ena muberes. He said not. Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi. My time with the Chananya ish oine. Why in galil is it not muberes? Why is it not at leap year? Amakra l'shichnoi tidrish. Let me get the pasuk. To reside there, Hashem, Tidroishu Ubasashama. And the Beis Hamikdash was in the Chelik of Yehuda and Binyamin. Right? That's so therefore, Ema Arbin the Shana where in Galil, because it's not Yehuda. That's the reason for what? For Hananya. That's the reason for Hananya. Kol Drisha Shatu Dairish. Any drisha that you seek should only be what in the place of what of Yehuda, and Yerushalayim, that wasn't the chelik of Yehuda. It was the area of Yehuda and also the chelik of Yehuda. Not only Binyamin, chelik of Yehuda. Tanabanan, aim abin hashana ela biyayim. Desna can only be ma'abin hashana during the day. It's not what it's not a leap year. You only can do kiddush a chodesh during the day. Even kitru b'layla ain't a mekudesh. It's not, the month is not mekudesh. Amar Rabba Mikro. What's the pasuk? Tiklu b'chodesh shofar b'kesel yom chagenu. So blow on your chodesh shofar b'kesel yom when the day is covered up. What's the chodesh where you can't see the levana, guys? So you can't see on Rosh Chodesh. On Rosh Hashanah you can't see the right. Haviyam is Rosh Hashanah because the moil it's not visible. And we go ahead and we compare it to Mishpat. Kiddush HaChodesh to Mishpat. Ma Mishpat Bayom, just like the judges during the day, Av Kiddush HaChodesh Bayom is also during the day, and therefore you can't do it at night.